Page 16, Rock Around the Clock. At the beginning of this, on these chords, are the first few measures. Now, we're going to go slow, alright? But it's going to move along pretty good. And in this case, rather than using different fingers for those first couple of measures, because of the repeated notes, and I like to use different fingers on repeated notes, in this case, in this piece, we're going to use thumb on everything. On the eighth notes, let me get this out of the way first. There is a note at the bottom that they can be played unevenly. Okay, we're going to play this like a rock style thing. So rather than even eighth notes, we're going to play them uneven. Something like that. So, first couple of measures in the right hand is, and then the next measure adds a note to that rhythm. And then the next couple of measures adds another note to that same rhythm, etc. Alright? So at the beginning, I'm going to use thumb on all those notes. Now, there's two schools of thought when you're playing chords. Let's take a look at the second line on those chords, the right hand chords. You can use the wrist to play them with, similar to a wrist staccato. These are not staccato, but you can use the wrist to do it. However, it's loud, and when you get loud, you almost got to use the arm. It's like an arm staccato, except they're not staccato. It's up to you which way you do. It doesn't hurt to do it both ways. Learn both ways. However, I want to mention on the second line, going between the second and third measure in the right hand, you're playing up here, right, and you bend here. Then in the last measure, you got to get your thumb down in an octave position. So when you're playing those eighth notes right before it, be ready. Get your thumb down there as you're playing the eighth, so you're ready, and that takes a little bit of practice. If you wait until you get there to get your thumb down there, it's too late, just so you know. Okay, let's talk about the right hand first. Now, we have been talking about the right hand first, haven't we? Measure 9. That is the third line, second measure. Right hand, look at the fingering. 2, 4. 4, not 3. Your hand is basically in an octave position. You're almost going to have to leave it there for a while because you need those notes. Right? So you kind of leave it there for a bit. However, it's a little bit tricky when you get to measure 11. That's the first measure of the last line on page 16. Look at the fingering. They have a 2, 4, 5, and then they want you to put your 3 on the E. Well, this is it's not a slow piece. That's tricky, all right? I recommend a little different fingering, and that is the 2, 4, and then the 1 on here. When we get to the arpeggios, this is part of an arpeggio, and that's part of the fingering, so it's simple once you get it. And you still put the 3 on the E, even though you put the 1 on the D. You want the 3 on the E because it puts you in position for what's coming. You got to put your thumb on a G a little bit later. On measure 14 and 15, those are the two measures of the first line on page 17. In the right hand, you have a B flat D. All the B's in that first measure are flat. That flat sign goes for the whole measure. And then on the next measure, it's a B natural. Measure 16, the rhythm. Because the eighth note is first this time, right? It's not a quarter note. So if I go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... You can play them even until you get them. And then once you get them, you can rock it, or yeah. Something like so. measure 18. You're starting out with your thumb and little finger on the F sharp and the D, and then play the C with the fourth finger, and then the G flat, B flat. The G flat and the F sharp's the same key on a piano. Then the thumb on that. Measure 20. That's the last measure of the third line on page 17 in the right hand. Actually, it's the measure before. It's the first ending. Both measures. The rhythm here is really weird. Trying to concentrate on the right hand. So in the last measure, you have an eighth note rest first, and then you play, and then it's tied. So it's 1.5 beats long, right? And then you play the staccato quarter note on the third beat. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. In the left hand, over on page 16, third line down, starting at measure 9. This is starting where the reverse repeat sign is. Look at the fingering on this. 5, 4, important on 4. 2, 1, and cross over and play the F natural with the 2. And then the 1 again. This is a standard boogie-woogie type pattern. You get it a lot in various keys, so get used to it. The point is you get this with this fingering, okay? So use that fingering, it's a good one. Now starting with the last measure on page 16 in the left hand, you see that one? And then it carries on, that same type of pattern carries on into page 17 for a few measures. It changes position. I recommend a slightly different fingering. You can use their fingering if you want, but I recommend on the first beat of that measure, of each of these measures, rather than a 5-1, use a 5-2 on all of these first measures on this pattern. That was it's just easier. For me, it's a good fingering. Now, let's go work on that first ending again. Both hands this time. The first measure, left hand, is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? The rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then put the two measures together. The rhythm is, get your hands in position here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. I speed that up without counting. You do it eventually, you work it up slowly. And then in the second measure you have a similar rhythm here. So you can work that out too. Just be careful. Just count it out really, really slow until you get the hang of it. And then you slowly speed it up, counting it until you get the hang of it, and you'll get it. You know about the first and second endings, all right? That's fine. It's not a problem. If you look at the bottom of page 17, you'll see 3 lines of text, okay? What they're telling you is there are 5 verses to this song. If you're going to sing it, you could sing all 5 verses. Well, if you look at the first ending, it says 1-4, telling you that this is endings 1 through 4. So you're going to play that ending for the first 4 times, and then you'll play the last line there, the second ending, on the 5th time. So this got a 5 in front of it. Now, if you don't do all 5 endings, then you'll do the first ending however many times you go, and the last time then you do the second ending, the last ending. So that's how that works. And that's about all I had to say here. This is a fun piece. We're going to play it. I'm going to play it really, really slow and encourage you to play it with me. And I'm only going to repeat one time. So we're going to play the first ending and then repeat back to the reverse repeat sign, and then go and play the second ending, and we're done. All right, you can do all these other verses on your own. So we are in G position. Actually, you're going to start with the right hand on thumb here, and the left hand is down here. Now those are accented staccatos in the left hand, so they're short and they're a little extra oomph. Not a lot extra oomph. It's not a bang, just a little extra oomph. So let's try this out. There's no pedal. We don't need pedal here. I'll give you 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go.